Welcome to the Awakening Women Show. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, a former counselor with a background in counseling psychology. I'm a mentor for high-achieving, ambitious women with over 13 years in the mental health and empowerment space. I've guided hundreds of women and have influenced over 100,000 through my platforms, podcast, and other courses, programs, and mentorship. I'm also the creator of the Relationship Clarity program, formerly known as End the Cycle, which you will hear me mention a lot of times as we go through the episodes. This program is to help women break free from destructive relationship cycles and come to clarity and power about their next step. This show is for the woman who knows her relationship struggles go deeper than the usual conflict. You know there's something more going on, but you can't quite nail it down or pinpoint what that is. You'll find clarity here, empowerment, truth, and validation. Clarity on whether your relationship can be healed or whether it's time to reclaim your life and move forward. What started as me sharing my own experiences quickly became a movement because the truth is, so many ambitious, successful women are stuck in confusing and draining relationship dynamics while trying to rise in every other area of their life, career, motherhood. This is you, you're not alone, and you don't have to keep living this way. Inside this podcast, you'll hear some of my most downloaded episodes, plus fresh content designed to help you break patterns, reclaim your wholeness, and decide once and for all if this relationship is where you belong. I'm so glad you found this space. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten. And in this episode, we're talking about something that is much deeper than the stay or go conversation or do I love him? Should I make it work conversation? So I know that if you're listening to this is likely where you're at, but it's really important that we're not missing the actual root of the reason and what's actually going on underneath. So when I'm working with a woman or I'm coaching a woman, I'm able to pinpoint exactly the place where she's abandoning herself, where she keeps tripping up and putting herself back into the pattern. And I say putting herself because a lot of women, maybe not the women I work with necessarily, I would say, because I tend to attract women that were like me, where I absolutely despised being relayed to as a victim. So I've never used that terminology, and I never wanted to see myself as that. And if I ever find myself in that, I want to shift it quickly. Because if we are identifying as a trauma survivor and an addict when we're no longer drinking, and this is where the 12-step type programs, I feel, they keep you in the identity of what you're trying to overcome. So if you're in a support group for overcoming something that you want to overcome, and all the talk is about a struggle and pain and trauma, and you're reliving things, you're in that energy of people in the problem reliving things. So on an energetic level, you are sustaining yourself at that level. When you get around expansion, women who are really wanting to expand their life, change their life, they want to do more, then you rise to meet that level. When you're in a room where there's different conversations being had about growth, potential, expansion, evolution, then you start thinking that way and you start seeing, oh, maybe this isn't so unattainable, or maybe this is actually doable. But when women are keeping themselves limited by the same conversations, the same circles, the same groups, the same types of environments that keep them where they are, then you're going to stay where you are. That's just how it works. And so a lot of women are in long-term marriages with men they don't even like. They don't even like their husbands. And this is the truth they haven't wanted to tell themselves. They want to tell themselves that no, they still love him and that they just have to try harder. And they're trying to force themselves to like him when they don't. They're not in love, but they're obsessed. And let me tell you, you don't have to, just because you feel obsessed or really fixated on a man or you're addicted, that doesn't mean you love him. So women can equate that intensity, meaning that it's love. But really what they're doing is they're in a relationship with a man's potential. And this thought came to me the other day, is We, as women, when we're in these types of patternings within ourselves, we are women that walk toward reclaiming the self, to learning self-devotion, to learning about our own potential and capitalizing on our own potential. But what women do is they mother a man's potential. I know he's got it in him. I know he's capable of more. I know he doesn't mean this. I know that he's a good person underneath it all, or he's really does mean well. And so they have all this future visioning of his potential, of what he's going to be someday. Meanwhile, they're decades in and that's not happening. And so what we really need to do is do a 180. And this is what I teach women to do. And this is what we're doing inside of the Reclamation Inner Circle. And this is over a year where you're going to work with me to reclaim self. And the goal is not to figure out your relationship or not, because you're going to figure that out along the way. The goal is about coming back to self, reclaiming the parts that you've given away, that you've abandoned, and no longer working with a man's potential, but seeing your own. No more being bonded to who he could be someday. And no more being so loyal to his future self that you're abandoning yourself now in the present. This is what women do. And I've been there. And what you're doing is you're spending more energy managing his readiness than embodying your own desires, your own vision, the things that light you up, stoking your own fire. So there comes a point where the real problem is no longer whether he steps up or changes, because that's what you're wondering, right? Can he change? Is this going to change? The real root issue is that your life force has become organized around his potential instead of your own potential. You've abandoned your own potential. And so that's a really good place to start, is where have I abandoned my own potential here? And betraying the self is all intertwined in this as well. It's no longer putting what we think, feel, want, believe, and desire, our value system, above all else. We put everyone else above ourselves. And then we wonder why we feel like we're out of integrity, or imposters, or we have shame around the part of ourselves that we're lying about to ourselves and to others, that we're not telling ourselves the truth. And so the outside external looks great. You're successful, you make the money, you've got the career, you've got the business, you've figured a lot of things out, but then you go home and it's a whole other identity level that you're dealing with there. And so you feel shame. That's what happens in between that, when we're hiding part of ourselves. And then we isolate because shame says, keep it quiet. There's something wrong with you, so you need to just segregate yourself and not talk to people, not be around people, not ask for help, not get support. Because you're a strong woman, you should be able to do it yourself. I used to tell myself all the time, I can do this by myself. That was my motto. Until getting to a point more recently where, yeah, I can, but I don't want to. And that's especially true if I'm in a relationship with a man. I don't want to be doing it all by myself. If I'm doing it all by myself, I may as well be single. Because what's the point? The point is that a relationship should ease both burdens, and that a man should be doing the containing, leading, and protecting and providing. Even if when you're making your own money as a successful woman, you're earning 6 figures, he's got his income, great. But he should still have a providership level as part of his morals, right? Part of his actual value system needs to be, my role is to lead and protect and provide for my woman and my children. And you can't make a guy want to do that. Either he wants to do that and wants to co-create something with you that works for you and him, or he's just concerned about what works for him. And there's a big difference in that. So here is what I call mothering his potential actually looks like. This just came to me today, this mothering his potential, because it's what I envision. It's like, you can do this, and I booked you therapy, and here's what you're not seeing, and here's your blind spots, and here's what you need to do, and here's what you need to change, and here's the list of things you need to do. And Well, back in the very beginning, when I first ran my first End the Cycle 30-day boot camp in 2019, I had a part in the program, and actually it's still there, where women do the intervention with their guy. And they can do that or not. But I have this whole thing laid out that is intended to be that intervention when you're at the place where you're very clear in your conviction that if these particulars don't change, because you really need to define those things for yourself, then you have the plan, process, strategy, everything's lined up for you to leave if they don't change. So there's a methodology to this, and it's inside of my portal. You can purchase it on its own. The actual OG and the cycle process is in my vault, but you get access to that in every single program and course I've ever created in the last 6 years, and more that are coming this year. So when you dive into the all access 12-month inner circle, you get access to everything, plus mentorship and support in our Telegram group and other things. We're going to be doing masterminds, and I'm really excited about this. It's for career entrepreneurial women who want to expand into more. You want more in all areas. And so here's what this actually looks like, is that you are over explaining your need. This means you're doing a lot of talking. And one of the principles I have women embody when they come in to work with me is the say less principle, because you're saying too much. You're spilling your words all over the place and they're not landing, and you're wasting your energy and you're leaking your power. A powerful woman does not need to over-explain. I know this was me, and I practice this even just with friends, my adult kid, or anyone that say like I had to change a plan that we had with some friends. And I was going to go into the whole list of reasonings why I had to change it. But instead, I just said, I need to change our plans. I will get back to you when with some different dates, because I was hosting. And there was various reasons why it just wasn't lining up, and it just was not feeling like the right thing to do on that day because of certain things that were happening. But I almost went into explaining it all and I stopped myself. So it's learning how, like, our power is in saying less. It's not in going on and on and on and giving over explanations. Nobody really needs to hear that anyways, right? It's much more powerful to keep it to a sentence or two, and the words are actually what are needed, and that's it, nothing more. So it's also constantly coaching him into his masculinity or his maturity. Like, it's like you're parenting, right? You feel like you're teaching them about morals, about boundaries, and how to behave normally after a while. And sure, there's ways to communicate something that you don't like in a relationship. And if a man is just going to keep doing it, then that's a bigger problem, right? So if you feel like you are constantly the one who is operating more maturely than him, that is going to start to feel like a mother-child relationship, and it doesn't feel sexy at all. You're going to have very neutralized polarity there, where you're not going to feel attracted to that, because it starts to feel like he's your child, and you really want a healthy masculine man that's going to have that maturity to lead. You're also seeing the brilliance in him while you're minimizing your own. So you might be seeing him in a certain way and talking down to yourself. And yes, sometimes that can be because you're with someone that does that, but this is even more reason why you need to learn to talk yourself up. And you're doing all of the emotional work. Like, you're basically the emotional CEO of the relationship. Like, you are the CEO in your career, and you run everything, and you run the home, and you're, on top of everything with the kids. And then you also feel like he's just another child that you gotta run. That's not sexy, right? No, it's not. You're also finally waiting for him to become who you know he can be. I know it's within you. I know you can do this. It's like, I know he could be really good if he wasn't abusive, or I know he could be a really good partner if he wasn't this and he wasn't that and he wasn't cheating and he wasn't drinking and alcoholic and lying. And it's crazy what we say. It's like, he could be a good person because I see it like 10% of the time, but the 90% of it is terrible, But he could be good if he was that 10% all the time. How do you think you're going to change that 90%? He's responsible for that, right? You're also tolerating inconsistency because you're attached to what he could be. So you think, oh, well, I saw some glimmers of hope here. I saw some change here. He said this, he said that. And so you hang on because he's going to therapy, or he's promising this, or he's spending more time with the kids. And so you think, oh, he's really trying, or he's triangulating the kids and making you feel pushed out. So that really triggers you to think, oh, maybe I'm losing something here. Like maybe it is me. You have to be really, really good at seeing through the bullshit. This is what I help women do. It's like we're the bullshit slayers in my group, because if you come in there and you post anything about anything that's slightly manipulative or where you're starting to abandon yourself, I'm going to call it out. This is what you need, is a place to go when you have your moments of weakness, because it will happen. And then the other thing that you're probably doing is you're constantly monitoring his growth and change more than your own. And then you're staying hyper focused on what he's capable of instead of instead of what you actually are experiencing. So he's capable of more, he's capable of this, that, and the other. However, this is my reality. This is what I'm experiencing. This is another area women abandon themselves. And then if you really think about this, like how dysfunctional we ourselves have to be to think that we're that wonderful that we can reparent a man. Do you want to reparent a man? Do you want to raise a man into his manhood? A lot of us women, we do sign up for that. And we think that I don't know what we think. we just do it. And I laugh now because, hey, I've done it. And mothering a man's potential is what happens when your devotion gets misplaced to him. It's all devotion to him when it should be devotion to you. And I don't want you to blame yourself, but we do need to take responsibility. Okay, it's not that you're to blame, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility now. And this is how we shift from victim to victor, is no, that stuff that happened to me was not my fault. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't ask for that, but it happened, and I need to look at why it did and what part of me joined with that, because that part of me needs to be healed and recalibrated at the root. And this is where we go into the emotional addiction part in my program. And in the inner circle, you're going to learn how to dismantle that emotionally addictive root. And the thing that a lot of women can make the mistake of is thinking that leaving is just enough. But if you have emotionally addictive components going on, which most of the women I work with do, and there are varying degrees depending on the level you're at, there's certain things that you need to do, and we go into that more personalized in the group. But when you have that going on, you have to heal what is going on there. And that can take a year or two of intensive work. I'm going to be honest. If you tend toward that, because you will notice that you're going to want to jump right back into something else, and you're going to end up right back in the same chaos, because there's something there that you're getting that rush from that you're going to keep seeking. And so that's why when women leave and then they tell me things like, I just feel so heavy, or I feel really low, or I thought this was going to feel relieving, but it just doesn't. And then they're really struggling. I remind them that this is the detox from the emotional addiction. That's what it is. It's the crash. So you need support when you're going through that. You need other women around you that will remind you of your power and what's actually going on. Because when you're in it, you're not going to remember that. You need those reminders. So why do successful women do this? Like why, when some women would immediately be repelled? We have to ask ourselves this. And somewhere along the way, we confused that being needed was being valued, that the only way that we could truly be loved and feel important is if we were needed. And we derive self-worth from what we can hold together. Like, I can just take it all. I'll handle that. I'll deal with that. I'll keep everything going. And this is where things can start to crumble when you start doing this self-reclamation work, because you start to see where you're holding everything together. And as you start looking at that and making shifts, those structures that are standing because you held them together can no longer stay the way they are. This is where a lot of women panic, but really this is the opportunity, because everything that you're holding together was never meant for you to hold together on your own. And then I think a lot of us get into this place where we're so focused on investing in the other person that we're not investing in ourselves. We're not looking at ourselves and what we need to do. And I remember back in 2019 when I really got this, like really, because I joined 2 different coaching mentorship programs. And one was for my business and one was for self. And I was in a place where I knew that I needed to go all in on me. And at that time, I didn't have the $6,000 or $7,000 I ended up dropping on that. I didn't have that sitting around, but I knew that in order for me to go to the next level and get to where I really know I needed to go in order to be able to change my life, that I was going to have to invest and get the support. I really wanted to be around expansion and bigger ideas and more than what I was dealing with, because something clicked in me. And there was a mentor that I had been following and listening to his podcast, both of them, listening to their podcast for quite a few years before I finally leaped. I'm like, I am doing this. And they were both very close together. I can't remember exactly, but they were close together in timing. That year, by the next year, I completely changed. I was a different woman. The way I was carrying myself, the way I was no longer tolerating, the way I poured myself into my purpose and built a 6-figure business that allowed me to live a life of freedom that I'm living right now, to buy my own home at the age of 44 and be able to hold everything together and maintain through illness, holding it all together, not perfectly, but keeping everything together. Because in this case, I was it and having to. And this is the case with a lot of women. So you really need to have deep support as a woman carrying all of that. So the thing that I truly believe is that the obsessing over him and the fixating on him is a component of an emotional addiction. Now, you're going to have some therapists that will say, no, that's not true. You can't be addicted to that. You can only be addicted to substances. But tell that to a woman who's left and she feels like she's withdrawing from heroin, because it gives you a full body like detox. You're going to drop weight maybe, or you're going to eat more because you're comfort eating, or you're not sleeping, or you're going to feel sick. You're going to have physical withdrawal symptoms, emotional withdrawal symptoms. So when I was in that counseling school, we learned about emotional addictions and process addictions, behavioral addictions. So this is what this is. And so when women can have that click and recognize and kind of put the shame aside of, oh, I'm not addicted, because maybe you don't do drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff, but your addiction is men. And I remember one woman that I worked with, she said, I never did any of the drugs and all that. I did men, when she had that realization through our work. I thought that was pretty powerful, because that's a lot of us, and you cannot change what you're not willing to tell yourself the truth about. So really, it's an addiction is continuing a behavior, knowing that it's harming you, knowing that it's dangerous and that it's destructive, but you continue it. So how does that not apply, right? So the cost, when we're living in this loop, in these relationships, it's costing us time. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm in my late 40s. I'm going to be in my 50th year this May. And we don't have a lot of time. And I just feel like this part of my life flew by. I was just saying this to my oldest daughter, that I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes in this lifetime of mine, because I've just been through so much hardship, so much ups and downs. Like my life, honestly, I would say it's constantly felt like it's just been an uphill battle to get anywhere, and feeling as though I've been doing it on my own. And I'm at a point now where I just shared this with the ladies in my group, is that there's grief in all of that. There's grief of the time lost. There's grief of changing identities as children leave home and you get a divorce and your family is, it's not what it was. And then when that happens, you have the opportunity to grieve and feel it, but then also you get to write your next chapter. Like, what's that going to be about? Like, who are you becoming? Who do you want to become? Who do you need to step into? What does that look like? And so that's the visioning I have now, is like, what is this next chapter going to look like? Because if I don't look at that, then I'm just going to crumble at the idea of having none of my kids at home anymore. So I have to take that grief and that sadness and that fear of that, what feels like a loss, but it's not, it's them doing what they're meant to do. But now I have to think, okay, so how am I going to turn this into my chapter, the first time ever in my life where I actually can just focus on what I need and want to do. So going in all in my business, write books, do the things that I truly want to do, but I've just felt like I didn't have the time or I didn't have the focus and it was never the right time. So this season is going to look different, but being, turning 49, we have more years behind us than ahead of us, likely, unless I'm going to live over 100. So time, you can't get time back. You can get money back, but you can't get time back. It's also costing you self-trust. And I feel like this is the biggest price to pay. When you don't even trust yourself anymore, what you think, feel, want, perceive, desire, you don't trust it. And you're allowed to want what you want, but you don't trust that. You don't trust your desires. We lose our erotic energy connection, ladies, because many of you are in these sexless marriages because you don't want anything to do with your spouse sexually and you think that you are asexual, that you don't like sex, that maybe you're gay, or that you're broken or something's wrong with you, or you think it's your past or any number of things. But you don't realize that it's just turned off. That energy needs to be stoked. And yes, we have to learn how to bring that through within ourselves. That's not a man's responsibility, but your erotic energy is your responsibility to cultivate. But also then it is fanned, obviously, and created even more so when you come together with someone else. But you've lost that. It's completely shut off. So this is one thing I'm going to be talking about in the inner circle, is how we can reclaim that within ourselves to heal. We also lose our creativity, our peace, the actual fieriness that we used to have. Maybe you know that there's that fire within you and you're a fiery woman, but the fire has kind of been like a bucket of water has been dumped on it and you're trying to get it stoked, but the bucket just keeps dumping on top of it. But when you really get back into connection with that fiery part of you, and then you start doing things to fan the flame, that's when everything really moves and you start blazing that trail out of your own trappings. When you can see that this isn't about him, it's about you. It's not anything to do with him. You put him on a shelf and you fully devote to self. You're fully obsessed with your new life and creating it and getting the mentorship you need and being in spaces that you need, being around other women, doing things out of your comfort zone, doing things that feel scary as hell. And you're doing it because it's supporting the woman you're becoming. You're going to feel terrified. You're going to do things and be freaking out. That's the only way we grow. It's like thinking, what am I doing? Oh my God, did I really just do that? Am I doing the right thing? This feels a little bit crazy. This feels a little bit delusional. What am I doing? Am I being irresponsible? Because you're finally going out on your own and you're doing something scary that's actually for your future self. So if you're doing anything that feels scary that is for that future self version of you, whatever that is, you have to learn how to ride the waves of terror through that, because it's aligned with that woman you want to become. So that's how we get there. We don't get there by being the same. It sounds so logical, right? But you don't really get it till you're doing it. The other piece that I teach women is about emotional sobriety. And this is when we are fully responsible and own our own emotions. We're not using other people to numb our emotions. We're not using men to make us feel better, to make us feel whole, to validate us for anything, because we're doing that for ourselves. The thing that happens is that as a woman, we become dimmer when too much of our psychic energy is spent in the energy of a man who is not meeting you at your level. So you're not just losing time in this dynamic, you're losing your actual life force, and you know that because you can feel that. And you feel yourself trying to connect with that again and reignite it, but just too much is going on around you, and you're not even connected to who you are to even know. And every season you spend over attending to his growth and his bullshit is a season you're not fully available for your own expansion. So I want you to think about what season you're in right now. I just shared a little bit of what I see myself in this season. So where are you at, and what do you want? Like, what do you want to create? What do you no longer want? As women, we need to know what we don't want. And we need to know what we want and not need to over-explain why we want it. We can just want what we want because we want it. Because we're women and we have desires and we're driven by that. I want to invite you into a new obsession, because the women I work with every time, they're obsessed with a man. And a healthy relationship has no obsession in that sense, where that's all you can think about. It's all you do. It's all you're consumed by. You have to have your own fullness, your own life, your own wholeness. You have to have things you're expanding into. How has your life gotten so small? As a powerful woman, you're dynamic. You have so much within you. You're multi-passionate. You have so much within you, but you have just shrunk into this little box. And you don't see that all you have to do is just like let yourself out of that and see what else is available to you. So what does that look like to become obsessed with your own expansion? It's honoring the value that you hold. And I've said it like this: you need to value your value. Value your value. That means you need to know how you're valuable and then value it. So it sounds simple, but once you really get that and you know your value, and you don't need a man or anyone else to tell you that or validate that or anything, you just know, the value you bring, and you just own it, and you have your standards, and you have what you desire and the things that you want, because you know why you know what you want. You don't need to know why you want it. You don't need to explain why you want it. You just want it. And so you're honoring your value without needing him to validate you. You're also choosing your standards over his potential. You're building a life that turns you on. You're connecting with that life force, that erotic energy. And if you've never read the book Pussy by Mama Regina, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Regina something. I don't have the book near me. But that's a really good one to learn about how a woman can connect with that part of her anatomy that we tend to disconnect from, and use that as your guiding power. Like, your turn on is what you move toward. Like, something just like, I don't know why this feels like I want to go in this direction. Like, this happened to me recently with a mentor. It's like I just fell upon her and then joined a year-long mastermind for my business, but also like personal transformation. And she's very multidimensional, which I'm always drawn to. But I was like, I don't know why I want this or why I feel really compelled, but I just do. And it's learning to just feel into that. Like, even like wanting to, like, I haven't really ridden a bike since I was a kid, like a young kid. And I started riding a bike again just a couple of years ago with a man that I've been dating, and we did some easier bike rides, and I actually enjoyed it. And so I want to start doing that again. Don't know why. It just kind of feels like play a little bit. I'm not doing any crazy stuff in the trails, like none of that. But for me, it's like, oh, that kind of feels like what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. Or even like this podcast, I have limited myself because I kept telling myself, no, Leanne, you have to keep talking about what you've talked about for the last 6 years, because that's what the women that are listening want. And you're going to lose listeners, and people are going to go away, and your engagement on Instagram is already down because you're not talking about narcissists anymore. And that's how you grew your account. So you need to keep talking about that. It was drying me up. Like, I don't want to talk about that anymore because it's such a small part of this journey. And the women that I work with that come in as a hell yes and want to work with me, they already know that's what they're dealing with. They're just lying to themselves. They're talking themselves out of, they're too much in their logic, too much in their masculine. They're not rooted in their own truth. And so they don't need more of that. That doesn't mean that my explaining it doesn't validate and really just confirm things, because oftentimes it does, just the way that I teach it and explain it to help them see the patterning and be able to actually like tell themselves the truth. But you already know. You're just denying what you already know. So what you need is to expand and just go all in on your life, just like I did in 2019. I completely just went all in and changed my life. There's a lot of other things in there that changed, but the biggest thing was becoming successful, creating the financial ability to buy my own house and build success for myself as a one-woman businesswoman. Other way that we become obsessed with our own expansion is building a life that really turns you on, the things that feel really good to you. It's reconnecting with your dreams and your body, like what's going on in your body, feeling it, your purpose, your pleasure, and your vision. It's tapping into that and then actually going after it. Instead of chasing a man, you're chasing your pleasure. You're chasing your purpose. You're chasing feeling good in your body. You're chasing that craving you have for the momentum toward your vision. And you're trusting yourself more than the fantasy that he's going to be anything different. And you're using your energy to create, leave, move. You're using your energy to create, lead, move, heal, speak, build, envision. And you're becoming that woman who no longer has to cling or overfunction in love anymore. And when you really understand what this is, it's magical. Like to have that kind of freedom where you're okay just with you. That doesn't mean we don't need other people, of course not. That doesn't mean that having a partner has no value. I don't mean any of that. It's about, you know what, I'm good without a partner, and I'm also, my life will be better with a particular partner. That's the only two available options for us now. So your new obsession gets to be your evolution, your turn on, your gifts, visions, dreams, things that you're inspired by, your passions, lighting your fire. Some women I work with, a lot of times they have a career, but they have a dream of something else. They want to shift and change their entrepreneurial endeavors. Some women completely leave one career for another. Some women have had high power careers and they want to go into the healing space and build a business. But they tell themselves that's irresponsible, unrealistic. And people tell you that too, right? No, you better just stay where you are. You need stability. That's unrealistic. You need a real job. So you go to the wrong people. You go to the wrong people with your dreams, and then they just snuff them out and you go, yeah, I guess they're probably right. That's probably is unrealistic. It's probably delusional for me to think that I could really build something for myself. And this is one of the areas of the mastermind I'm going to expand into, quarterly masterminds. And part of it is going to be purpose and vision alignment, like getting really honest about what do you really want? What is that? Is it a next level of your business? Is it a totally different area? Like going from, one woman was saying in my group, she wants to move from like hairstyling to the healing arts, something in healing. We as women, because of the things that we've been through, we start off in the professional, like masculine, having everything set up, do the education and all that. But what we really crave is like to live in our flow, to channel our inspiration, to be in the healing industry. So you're in a corporate role, but there's a part of you that wants something deeper. There's a spiritual connection to our purpose. Not everybody will ever be able to live in that. And that doesn't always mean it's expressed through career. That's not it. But if you know that there is something else that you're meant for, where are you shutting that? So a question to leave you with is, where am I more devoted to his growth than my own? And then another one, and you can journal these, what am I postponing for myself while I wait for him to change or be better or come around or see the light? It's not going to happen, but So the woman you're becoming does not need to mother love into maturity with a man that is not interested. What the work is that is so transformational is when you become so anchored in your own value, vision, and self-devotion that anything that does not match with that and align with that, it's so obvious that it can't be unseen. And you don't do this work to change him or to try and get him to come along. You do it for you. You lead yourself to rise. And that's really the end point, right? You've got to shift from his potential to your expansion and become obsessed with self-devotion. His growth is not your assignment. That's not what you were brought here for on this planet. You're not here. And his potential is not a partnership. It just isn't. And you have to stop trying to organize and build your life around what he could be or who he could become. Because you start to lose yourself in love when you become more loyal to his own becoming and potential than your own. And the fantasy of who he could be can keep you unavailable for the truth of what you're really seeing. And your life force is too sacred to be spent managing his evolution. He's not interested in evolving. Who are you to try and convert him? It's no fun. That's not any way to waste your life. You have so much else you could be focusing on. So what I want to invite you to is, for this month, I am enrolling into my 12-month The Reclaimed Woman Inner Circle Mastermind. So this is a hybrid of the therapeutic coaching that I do and the mastermind sessions that I'll be doing to help you really align holistically. So we're working on body, relationships with men, and purpose. The three areas that most women that come in to work with me end up doing in all those three areas. So quarterly, we will get together. We'll have mastermind live Zoom sessions, and you're going to put the plan together and come with what it is that you want to do. And then we work together to give you that support. And most women, like almost all the women that come in to work with me, have very rapid growth. I don't say that lightly. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm not doing anyone any favors by not showing up and putting something at this level out there. Short term is okay. It can give you that quick hit, but the real change happens when you do this over time. And this is just a lifestyle. It becomes part of you. That's, hey, I'm in this room of evolution because that's the kind of woman I am. And I surround myself with that. And so if that's what you're ready for, then I invite you to put an application in. I'll read it through, make sure that you're a fit and that I think it's the right next step for you, because it's not for everyone. It's for women who are serious about their transformation. And If I believe you're a fit, what I do is message you on Instagram, as long as you give me your handle, and we might go back and forth there for a little bit. I don't get on calls with anybody. And then we'll just chat briefly there. I'll make sure that it's a fit, maybe ask you any follow-up questions. And then if we decide to move forward and I believe it's the right fit, then you will be invited to enroll, and you'll come in and you have, like I said, all access to my entire vault and the community, and just there's so much. There's a lot that I have put into this, and to be honest, it's worth triple what I am charging right now, and it will only go up. So this is a new program, a new offering, I should say. And so this is the first group that I'm bringing together, and I invite you to see if it's a fit for you. All right, I'll talk to you in the next edition.